Today I'm going to be making something that may sound a little odd, but I looked it up on allrecipes.com and it has great reviews, and quite a few of them, and that's always a good indicator of a good recipe. Lots of reviews and a good rating. Or if you know someone that's tried it and they enjoy it, that's a good sign too. The recipe I'm making is addictive sweet potato burritos. They're a vegetarian dish made with sweet potatoes, which sounds a little odd, but I'm always into trying new things, and as a cook you should be. So the first step is we need 4 cups of cooked sweet potatoes. Now 4 cups equals 2 pounds, because 1 cup is 8 ounces. 2 large sweet potatoes should do. Take a large pot, large enough to hold your sweet potatoes, fill it with a good enough amount of water so it will cover them, put it on your stove, and put it over high heat, and wait for it to boil. Once at a boil, throw in your sweet potatoes, and then we're going to cook them for 45 minutes, enough to soften them up. Now that your large pot of water is at a boil, like I said before, put in your 2 sweet potatoes. Gently, you don't want to burn yourself with that water. And if you got enough water, they should be pretty well covered. Now it's 40 to 50 minutes, I usually like to go about 45, and then they'll be soft. And then we can pour them in a colander, rinse them off with water, get the skins off of them, and mash them. So 45 minutes, and during that time you can prepare your other ingredients. For this recipe, you need 6 cups of either kidney beans, pinto beans, or black beans. And what you do is you need to mash them. Now I already bought them in a can pre-mashed, but you need 6 cups worth, which is 48 ounces, or the equivalent of 3 cans. I definitely recommend buying them mashed already. Or if you want to mash them yourself, mash them before we put them in the skillet later. They'll definitely fill up a small bowl. I mean, you're talking 6 cups worth, so you should have a large amount. About 10 minutes before your sweet potatoes are done cooking, you want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. For this recipe, we also need an onion chopped and 4 cloves of garlic minced. We also need the minced 4 cloves of garlic, and garlic's easy. You just put the fat into your blade down, smash it, and that helps the, oops, no, I had 2 in there. That helps the skin come off, and it kind of releases some of those juices. And then since it's minced, it's just super tiny little pieces. Now that the sweet potatoes have been boiling in water for 45 minutes, dump them out in a colander, in a sink of course. What we're going to do is just rinse some cold water over them. The whole point of cooking them in the water was to just get the skin off. We're going to cook the burritos later, so don't worry about getting them cold. The whole point of this was just to get the skin off. And the skin should come off really easily. If you run cold water over it, the outsides won't burn you, but be careful not to touch the insides, because they will burn you, and they're hot. You can use a fork to flip them around if you want. Make sure you get off all the little pieces. And from here, I'm just going to put them in a kitchen mixer to mash them up a little bit. Or you can mash them with your hands. not with your hands directly, use your hands and use a tool. At this point, they're so soft, it really doesn't matter. I just want the good consistency that an electric mixer will give me. At this point, get a medium skillet over medium heat and add 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil. And let that heat up for a little bit. Once this has begun to warm up a little bit and you've spread your oil around, we can put on our whole onion and our minced garlic. And a good way to push it in with your knife is use the flat end of the blade, not the cutting end, and just push them in. So cook and stir these, and it's set until soft. So I'm going to guess about 3 to 5 minutes. Depending on your stovetop, you may need to change the temperature a little bit, or if you want them to cook quicker, I recommend doing it at medium-high, or in my case I'm doing between a medium and a medium-high. But you'll hear that sizzling sound, and you'll see them start to shrink a little, release some juices, and soften up. Alright, at this point, they're definitely starting to soften up. Just make sure you keep stirring them. You'll feel if you kind of pat them, you'll feel them get soft. So now I'm going to add my 6 cups of beans. Now I was reading some reviews of the recipe, and people said make sure they're mashed before. I bought pre-mashed ones, so I'm good, but if yours aren't mashed, definitely mash them before you add them. Or if you want, you can just add them and mash them at this phase, but add in your 6 cups. Try to get out as many as you can. Mine's a little under 6 cups, believe it or not, but it's going to be a lot of beans. So just stir this in. As you can see, I mean, this is all that we're going to add to it other than some spices, but make sure your skillet is definitely big enough. Mine is just barely big enough. As you can see, mine's all pretty much coming together now, and it said add 2 cups of water and then heat it till it's warm and then remove it from the heat. So I'm going to add my water in a little bit at a time because I don't want to splash everywhere. This definitely helps loosen it up because it was a little bit thick. Mine at this point has enough water because my cans of beans already had some water mixed in. So you just go to whatever consistency you want, but the recipe calls for 2 cups. Okay, first thing we need to add is 3 tablespoons of chili powder, which I'm a little low on. So 1, 2, and then 3. I probably only had a total of maybe 2, not even. So 3 tablespoons of chili powder. Stir that in. And then we need to add 2 teaspoons of ground cumin, which I am also low on. So 2 teaspoons. There's 1, and I really don't have a second one, but you need 2. There's 2 teaspoons of cumin. It's optional, you can add 4 teaspoons of mustard, but I'm not a big mustard fan, so I'm going to skip that. And now you just do a pinch of cayenne pepper. So I'm just going to do it. There, that's good for me. And it also says at this point to salt and pepper it to taste. But my cans of refried beans already were salted and peppered, so I'm not going to do that either. But if you're making this at home, feel free salt or pepper as much as you want. And you need 3 tablespoons of good old soy sauce. That I do have enough of. I just bought one fresh. So there's 1.
Casey.
Hold on. There's 2. And there's 3. And carefully mix that in. Okay, now what I recommend doing, taking a baking sheet, spraying it with some non-stick spray. And then I guess just one at a time. Take your burrito. Or not your burrito, your tortilla. Put some of the bean mixture on it. A little bit of your sweet potato mixture on it. And then top it with some cheese. And then it said just roll it up burrito style. So if you've ever been out to get burritos. Okay. The way I made mine, I only had enough filling for 8. So, you know, depending on how much you fill them, you might make all 12, you might only make 6, whatever. But at this point, we got to get them in our oven, preheated at 350. And we're going to cook them for 12 minutes. Okay, the burritos have been cooking for 12 minutes, so now I'm going to pull them out, let them cool, you know, just for a little bit, and then we can try them. They smell good. They look a little browned, so. Let them cool off and let's dig in. Alright, now the important part, trying it. A lot of people told me, you know, this sounds weird or you shouldn't make this, but I think as a cook you should always be trying new things. I took a bite earlier and I only got beans. It was a little too hot, so I'm going to try it again. Now that's cooled down a little. Hopefully get some of the sweet potato in there. I got some of the sweet potato, and surprisingly, I think it mixes pretty well. The sweet potato, it's not that strong. Most of the flavor's in the beans, and I think the sweet potato is kind of a nice mix to it. So if you want some good vegetarian burritos, try these.